Hey, what's up, everybody? How y'all doing? We back here with a little bit of bonus footage. So, what I did on my Instagram, I went asked people to ask some questions about the topic that we were going to be discussing. So, we got a couple questions, and asked Pastor Jerry, we gonna talk about them. So, that's what this is. And so, the next couple videos you'll see it probably is us talking about these questions and asking the questions in the Q&A. And so, little bonus footage. So, here we go. First question or suggestion of topic is this: racism versus justice. And so, what are our thoughts about which one are we really struggling with present day in America?
So racism versus prejudice.
Racism versus prejudice.
Yeah.
And he also went to say is my question is more centered around living in a culture that was built on racism being a philosophy or a way of thinking, versus the prejudice, which is more perceived opinions of other people.
Yeah.
And so, wanted to know what our thoughts about that.
Yeah. I think he's right that we're dealing with both of them.
Yeah.
See, racism is connected to power. Mm-hmm. You are racist if you have the ability to stop someone from doing something, mm-hmm. stop someone from getting a job, stop someone from moving into certain neighborhoods. Racism is connected to power. And the reason why the church has, been complicit in racism is because they have used certain areas of their dogma to stop people from advancing or to put people into categories like this is a false preacher or this is a false prophet or whatever, and they don't speak out against those things. So we're dealing with racism because it has the power to stop people. And we're dealing with prejudice because it is taking those stereotypes to the max. Like anytime you hear somebody, specifically in a church, a black preacher coming to church, and he'd be like, "Oh man, I can't wait to hear you preach." Because I know you go bring it. Like what? Because he has this reality that black preachers hoop, or black preachers have this, emotive aspect of preaching. But what is the white aspect of preaching? So you have these stereotypes and these micro and macro aggressions that we take to the end of itself, and that's another thing that we're struggling with through the church, and that's where Black identity begins to kind of fall apart.
That's good, man. That's good. One thing I would say in response to that, in addition to what you're saying, is that it's connected. Yeah. That racism is kind of like something with a string, or like prejudice is the child of racism.
That's true.
Because it's not the fact that you may, and one of the things that I've said before is that it's not the explicit racist or racism that poses the biggest threat to people of color, or, just black people, whoever you want to say the demographic of it. It's the fact that these silent biases and prejudices that people hold on to.
True.
Because if you listen to the people that kill, what's the common thing that they say? They fear for their life. With Eric Garner, fear for my life. I fear for my life, so I acted in a lethal manner. Yeah. And so the thing is, do these same people that fear for their life, when you confront somebody that has what you think is a fake $20 bill, or what you think is, he's selling cigarettes illegally, but you have to choke them out. Right. However, you got a young white boy with an AK-47 going around that already killed people, got it pointed at you, but you find a way how to diffuse the situation lightly. Sure. What is the difference? It's the fear. It's the presence of the fear. You don't fear the little white boy, but you fear the big black man. Yeah. And so that result of fear does, like you said, taking that action and amplifying it, calls for a overreaction that often results in the loss of life. Mm-hmm. And so it's not necessarily the fact that these people are racist. Yeah. It's the fact that they have a preconceived notion of what those people are like.
That's true. Ida B. Wells, one of her big works was in lynchings, and she talked about, when you would see a black person being lynched or hanging from the tree, automatically you think he did something. He deserved that. And so you take that same mindset and all the stereotypes that have been said about black people, and you say, let's wait on the facts.
What did he do?
Yeah, he had to have done something, and so you take these stereotypes to the end of itself, and that's prejudice. And I'm not saying, and this is just to my Black brothers and sisters, man, we have to make decisions that we don't continue to carry on those characters.
Yeah.
Because one thing that white people have shown us, our brothers and sisters, is that they love Black culture, but they don't like Black people. Right? And so we got to make decisions with some of the things that we are doing so that we don't allow people to carry on the stereotypes that we have allowed to be perpetuated in our communities.
That's good. That's good. So what would be the response that you would say? It's like, hey, young man, or hey, church, this is what we need to do in response to having these prejudice or confronting racism. Like, what would be that challenge or encouragement in this particular vein of this question?
So in regards to prejudice, in prejudice, you talk to those brothers and sisters and let them know why what they said or whatever microaggression or macroaggression that they have done. You address that right then and there.
Exposure.
You have to expose these things, all right? Because if you don't, then they think that way of thinking and that way stereotyping is okay. You have to address those things.
Yeah.
And then when it deals with racism, which is that's a massive thing. First, I think from a church standpoint, we have to call it out.
Yeah.
Right? We have to call it out. Secondly, we have to evaluate our church to make sure we don't have systems or dogmas in place that is hindering people from looking more like Jesus. So we got to excavate our area to make sure that we're not doing. And then from a government level, man, we have to press upon our leaders and our city leaders, man, that certain policies just won't fly.
Yeah.
We will not vote for you. These are the things that we want. These are the things we want to see in our city. And if you're not willing to do these things, we will not vote for you.
Yeah.
I know we don't think voting matters, but man, at least let's start on the local level and then the state level, because the local and state level affects us more than sometimes the federal level.
Yeah.
And so as the church, we need to evaluate. On a civil level, we need to make sure that we are not allowing policies and procedures to be done. Let me say this last point. Sometimes Black people agree to things that they think is going to help their community. But it's not helping your community when you don't have ownership over it. Like when you are being dictated by someone else, how something is operating, you don't want to get in bed with those things. All right. And so Black people get to a point where you are not allowing people to dictate what is coming into your community or what is coming out of your community. You have to be in a position to be able to do that. And I know it's hard because of gentrification and redlining and all those different things or whatever. But if we come together, man, we can make some real decisions to make sure that these type of things are not happening in our community.
Yeah, man. Well, appreciate you, Jerry. I mean, I ain't got nothing to say about that. So yeah, you heard the man. That is our response to that question. So the thing is this: whether it's racism or whether it's prejudice, both of those are things that we are mandated as believers in Christ because of the imago Dei, the identity, the value of a man because of the identity of man, because that man or woman has been made in the image of God. And so those are things that we are to call out, to address, and to say that, hey, this is not right. And so that is how we address these things in a biblical manner. So appreciate you for asking the question. We better get on to the next.